anytime, anywhere. Access inspiration that never switches off. Stuck in traffic? Elevate your mood and own the moment. Just looking busy? Make every second count. Tap into Kingdom content instead. One tap, instant power, real transformation. Download the Elevate TV app now. Exclusively on Google Play.
Elevate TV, advancing Kingdom lifestyle.
Good day, depending on where you're tuned in from. This is the Thursday Morning Digest, and as always, we come to you live from the Elevate TV studios right at the heart of the city of Nairobi. I hope you are doing well and that you have been kept well by the Lord. Today, as we begin our show, we want to talk about wellness. We want to talk about dieting and how we can use dieting to help us to live healthy and productive lives. I have a guest in studio who will take us through this discussion today, but I want to request that you can share any questions that you have, any comments. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and of course on free to air, but I want you to participate in this discussion. Send in any questions and our guest will be able to address them. As always, this is a show for women and for those who love women, so you are most welcome to be with us in this show. So I want to introduce my guest this morning, and she's none other than Lilian, Mumina. She'll introduce herself as well so that we get to know more about her even as we start our discussion. At the end of the show, I'll request her to share how you can reach her so that if you have any additional questions or you need to consult further, you will be able to reach her. So, karibu sana to Elevate TV.
Asante sana, Laureen.
Yeah.
So mimi naitwa, I'm English.
Yes.
I'm Lilian.
Yes.
My name is Lilian Mumina.
Yes.
I'm a registered and a licensed nutritionist and dietitian.
Okay.
Practicing in Kenya.
Wow.
I am also the national treasurer of the Kenya Union of Nutritionists.
Wow.
That brings us together like all nutritionists from the country.
Okay.
So I am definitely glad to be here.
All right.
Yes.
Karibu sana. We are glad to have you, and we are really glad to be able to have this discussion because many times we say we want to live healthy, we want to have productive lives, but we find that, we don't do that. And so today we want to discuss how dieting can help us. Yeah. But before we do that, why did you choose nutrition?
Actually, I think I chose nutrition after graduating from the degree.
Okay.
That's when I intentionally chose nutrition.
Okay.
Because I saw the need in our population to actually change lives, to actually impact people, behavior, and that.
Okay.
And I thank God I did the training for nutritionists, because if I had not done it, I would not have had the opportunity to choose it.
Okay.
So yeah, I chose it because there's a gap when it comes to our masses in Kenya.
Yes.
And as you have seen, currently, if you go on social media, there's someone complaining about either they are having serious issues, like hormonal imbalances, serious food cravings, someone is struggling with fertility, someone is struggling with anything. And these gaps needs to be addressed. And unfortunately, in the recent past, there were no nutritionists who are vocal enough to come out and talk about them confidently and outspokenly outside there. So this gap was actually now captured by anyone who comes in and decides, okay, fine, I want to talk about food. and diet. And unfortunately, they were just selling out an idea that was just what we call usually fads. Basically something that someone just comes out and decides, okay, I want to make money out of women's frustrations. You know, if you're in marketing or in business, people say that once you capture the woman's attention, you have captured the market. So if someone now taps in with that, to that frustration, with the wrong information, with the wrong goals, then we are going to lose our people. And that is why I think I love practicing nutrition, because it not only brings out the results, but it's fulfilling, because when you change the perspective of one individual, you have the opportunity to change more than 10 others, because they remember this individual has a family, maybe she has friends, relatives, colleagues, and you know, sometimes when we get to them, we can get to the masses, and we can help change the dynamics of Kenya, especially when it comes to health and nutrition, which is terrible at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that perspective. Sorry. I think I've always just looked at diet and nutrition from an individual's perspective. But now when you bring in the issue of the masses, then it completely changes you know, the outlook, because then you realize that actually the masses could be suffering because of the diet challenges that we have. Okay. So what are the most maybe common deficiencies that we see nutritional, especially among women, because we are focusing a little more on the women? Yeah,
when you talk about deficiencies in women, I'll talk about the most obvious one, that is water. Most women are not hydrating enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you see, like, we're supposed to drink enough. We're supposed to ensure that we're supporting our metabolism enough, to ensure that now we are promoting and prompting our metabolic health and our digestion movements and such. This is the first thing. This is the movement, or bowel movement, is the first form of defense or form of intervention in actually ensuring that things, you know, with women we struggle a lot with hormonal issues. So bowel movements and just going to the toilet in the morning when you wake up to ensure that you remove the excesses is a very serious thing that we need to have. So women are not drinking enough water. Of course, the other thing, we have things like iron. You know, because of our menses, because of maybe childbirth, we're dealing with a lot. So of course, our iron needs or our blood needs are higher. And unfortunately, our dietary patterns and habits has changed significantly to the negative side. So with these changes, we have a lot of women consuming, even if they are consuming like iron-rich foods, they're not pairing them up with the right mediums, with the right other vitamins, like maybe vitamin C for absorption, utilization, and availability in the body. So of course, we are struggling with iron deficiencies. And of course, we have folic. As a woman of reproductive age, that is anything between 13 to maybe 45 in Kenya, you need to ensure that your folic levels are well maintained. And this is just simply from the simplest foods like green vegetables, legumes, nyama, liver, and all that. So when you don't take that up and you're still in the channel of reproducing, you're risking now getting pregnant and now transferring neuro defects to your infant. And you see such information, yes, they are available there, and there are interventions that have actually been targeted to actually ensure that this woman who's of reproductive age in Kenya actually gets the necessary care, but unfortunately our masses are not even aware that such services exist. So that we are still struggling a lot with this common deficiency. And of course there's calcium, because of now things like maybe when you're preparing for things like maybe menopause, you're preparing for things like maybe later on in life, and also pregnancy, you know. There is that aspect where the body needs to be well cushioned, your bones needs to be strong, your tendons need to be well taken care of, and if you're not consuming enough calcium, then you'll have a lot of challenges. And other minerals. Deficiencies in women is a lot, because you're not even taking enough omega-3s. Like if you ask a common Kenyan woman who's not from the lake or from the western region, they don't consume fish or even omena as frequent as they are supposed to. There are things like seeds, nuts, like where I come from, we don't grow nuts. So people do not eat njugu a lot or even enough. And of course, there are things like chia seeds. If you're not growing them in your locality, and even the ones in the urban regions, they usually take to other snacks that are a bit deficient, that actually contribute to the deficiencies. So yeah, there's a serious problem when it comes to deficiencies in women.
Wow, I'm listening to you and I'm just wondering, how wrong we are as a population. Reason being, a number of the things you're mentioning are no longer, I think, as maybe available as they used to be, or as affordable as they used to be. Because in times past, it was very easy. You just go, you know, to the market, and there was a lot of food available, the vegetables, the greens and all that. And the prices were, you know, in fact, sometimes you just pass by somebody's home and they're like, oh, we've harvested, please have. Yeah, so how do we try to, you know, navigate through the tough financial times and then still looking at the diet?
Now, allow me to challenge you a bit. When you think about the cost of healthy foods,
Yes.
and then versus the cost of the unhealthy or the highly refined and processed foods in Kenya, let's be specific about our country.
Yes.
Now, if I want to have, let's say I want to have ugali, I want to have ugali with omena and maybe mboga za kienyeji.
Yes.
I can comfortably go to the market, get my vegetables at 50 shillings, I get my omena at 50 shillings, and then my unga at maybe 130, 140.
Okay.
And then I will prepare ugali that can serve like 5 people in the family. And of course I add something like maybe an avocado. I would have spent like 300 max.
Okay.
Now you come into the comparison of the chips and the fries or the other alternatives that we actually have in our society, especially in urban women. Now if I go to the joint just across here, I will get it at 2 pizza minimum 390, 410, 400 bob.
Okay.
So let's we need to make people understand, you know, the narrative that is being sold that healthy foods are expensive. It has not yet reached Kenya.
Okay.
Let's talk about luxury foods, because if I'm thinking about omega-3 from salmon or something else, of course it will be costly.
Yes.
But you know, I am in Kenya. We can afford omena for 50 shillings. We prepare it well. We just add some lemon, we squeeze it, and then we do some mboga za kienyeji. And we don't do cream in the mboga za kienyeji. We can do something else, and then we eat it. We'll have gotten a lot of nourishment.
Okay.
And I understand the fact that things have changed. The way you're saying that in the recent past, someone would comfortably go to a homestead.
Yeah.
And someone will actually now be comfortable to pluck them and some foods and pack them and go. We have become so, I don't know if it's worried. We overthink. When someone packs for you food, you're thinking, oh my God, ameniekea nini? Kwa nini amenipea? We need to learn, I don't know, trust in one another might be a challenge, but we need to maybe bring the ujami. It was not maybe such a bad idea because the communal living was ensuring that even a mother, when she delivers in a homestead where there's no food, that mother got enough. Because the community, the society around made sure with that. And you know, with the social media, we can actually capitalize on it. We can actually take it to our advantage instead of promoting isolation, which is terrible. Which is terrible, and it predisposes us to a lot of issues. You know, the isolation thing of living should be discouraged kidogo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Viewers, I hope you're following. My myth has just been debunked this morning. Healthy foods are not expensive.
In Kenya.
In Kenya, okay, in Kenya. So you just need to find, you know, ways of, you know, obtaining the food and make sure you're feeding yourself and your family healthy foods. Okay. Now, you talked about water, challenges with water, you know, low intake of calcium, folic, and etc. So are there ways of ascertaining, say, the quantities that we need? Yeah, and how does one go about that?
Yeah, of course there are general population guidelines on the quantities that we need for calcium, protein, omegas, iron and all that for women in the different stages. Of course, if you are an adolescent, of course you might require more because again you're preparing your body for menses, you're preparing your body for puberty, you're preparing your body for even fertility. And you know, these are energy, or they require a lot of energy to ensure that it is maintained optimally. So for someone like maybe a teenager, she might need like an increase in the amount of protein, like maybe when it comes to protein, I'm not just talking, you know, when you say protein, people assume it's just meat. We have the plant-based sources of protein, and in Kenya we have a lot of them. If you don't like beans, you can do kamande. If you don't like kamande, you can do ndengu. If you don't do ndengu, you can do minji. There's a variety, but again we also encourage to consume at least the different ukuwa unakula usikuwa unakula maragwe kila siku, so you ensure that today ukikula beans, tomorrow you do ndengu, or you do something else, or even do meat, or even liver for that teenager to ensure that she gets enough. And then when it comes to maybe pregnancy, of course, has the highest needs because now you're consuming for two. And when you say we're consuming for two, we usually don't mean the quantity. Yeah? We usually talk about the quality. You ensure that you're taking enough iron to maintain your blood stores and to support the pregnancy. You ensure that you're taking enough protein, again, to promote the fetal development and to ensure that you're taking care of yourself. Enough calcium for their development and to ensure that you protect your bones. So kiza usianze ku lose meno, you don't start losing. You know, there's this myth that women say that once you give birth you have to lose a teeth. That's deficiency. Your body is screaming that I am deficient. Once you give birth you have to have issues with your back. That's again is deficiency, you know. So there are things that we need to ensure that we are doing as women in our different stages of life to ensure that we meet these needs. And yeah, maybe that we can talk about. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I remember people saying even when you give birth you lose hair.
Yeah.
And we accepted those as standard, you know.
Yeah.
But it's good to have you in the show because you are then educating us, and I hope the people watching, you are getting some of the things we have accepted are actually not correct. You know, we just need to eat right. Okay. And then water. How much water generally should somebody take?
You know, water needs, when it comes to water, they're a bit specific on your activity levels, on your dietary patterns. Of course, if you consume more protein, you will need more water than someone who's taking less protein. If you're a bit active, you will need more water than someone who's not active. If your weight is higher, you'll need more water than someone who is not. But generally, because of the guides of the masses, we recommend that intake of at least 8 to 12 glasses of water a day. And this is when you're maybe not pregnant, when you're just normal, going about your normal routines. Of course, when you have special needs, let's say you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding, you must increase your water intake. Of course, to ensure that you meet the blood needs for pregnancy and the fluid needs for breast milk production. Because if you don't do that, you will experience chronic dehydration, which will affect these two processes negatively. And as I said, I started by saying that a lot of women in Kenya are dehydrated. If you walk outside there, people have dry skin, people have dry lips, people are just dry. Even they don't have much or watery in their eyes. It's dry, dehydration. So people need to take water, and water is readily available, water is accessible. I'm sure even if you go to your neighbor and request for a cup of water, they will readily give it to you. So let's normalize hydration.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. You've talked about pregnancy and how a pregnant woman should take care of their diet. Now, I remember there are foods we were told, like, you know, when you're pregnant, maybe take njahe, you'll have more milk, or cocoa, etc. Is that accurate, or those are just myths?
You know, when God gave us the foods, he gave it to us akijua we were going to go through these different phases. Of course, there are foods like njahe that actually support and actually provide you with better nourishment. Njahe is a very dense food. If you have not, most people don't like it because wanasema inaonja mchanga, but there are different ways of preparing it. Njahe is very dense. It's rich in iron, it's rich in fiber, it's rich in energy. It's just so good for someone who's breastfeeding because again, you see the hunger pangs that come with breastfeeding. Usipokula chakula mzuri ama ndio mzito, you might end up over consuming and unapata we are gaining unnecessary weight. So yes, njahe, some foods actually support breastfeeding. That's okay. We have njahe, we have ujia.
Not soya. No,
not soya. The fermented uji. That you know where I come from. Once a woman gave birth, she used to be visited with those, but currently sahi imeisha. Unfortunately, such practices are no longer being done. So if you're there and you've just given birth, of course you can try and source the fermented foods. They're also good for someone who's breastfeeding because they optimize your digestion, and when your digestion is optimized, your nutrients will be more available to ensure that your body has more supply to promote breast milk production, and of course to ensure that the quality is also maintained. And this will actually help nourish the baby better. So yes, there are foods that actually support breastfeeding, and our parents or even our grandfathers and mothers, they actually grew up taking them, and they were having like 8 or 10 babies. So and sometimes it's okay to just listen to the wisdom of the old. I'm not saying everyone that is old is wise, but there's that wisdom that comes with age. If someone who has lived like 8 times through what you're going through for the first time, it's okay to listen to their counsel here and there, but again, pia usisikize juu atakwambia, because of that they'll tell you that by age 4 months or even 5 months the baby was eating ugali. Let's also allow evolution and science to thrive.
Okay, okay, interesting. All right. Now, how then, because now we are looking at women, we've looked at them, we've looked at adolescents, pregnant women, now we want to tackle menopausal women. What are the dietary considerations for the women who are in either perimenopause or,
Of course, when it comes to menopause, one thing that if you're trying to avoid the impact or the effect of menopause being too hard on you, you need to ensure that you're toning down on certain activities. The modern woman is clubbing, the modern woman is smoking, the modern woman is drinking. We are competing with the other gender. Now, once you get to that phase, that's when you will understand that you're not supposed to do that. The best way to prepare for something is to prepare before it happens. And if you're preparing for menopause, of course, you go slow on the alcohol intake. You go slow on things like maybe chronic caffeine intake, things like maybe if you're smoking, tone it down kidogo. It's good for you, it's good for your hormones, it's good to ensure that things are at balance. So it comes to nutrition. Of course, you need to ensure that now you're supplying your body with phytoestrogens. These are basically because your levels of estrogen drop significantly when you get into the peri and the menopause phase. So again, this brings a lot of fatigue. You get the hot flashes, mood swings here and there, dry skin, dry whatever. But once you get to there, you need to ensure now the best phytos that we have. Of course, there is that soya, but again, you don't need to overconsume it. You just ensure that you're taking it every now and then. And then you can also do other foods, healthier foods like maybe legumes, you do whole grains. You ensure that again you're trying as much as you can to maintain your intake of quality protein, to ensure that you're taking up your leafy greens, vegetables, to even try and support your mood. Sometimes mood is all about diet. You're trying to support your mood with diet. Unaota jua to get the vitamin D, eggs, fish, vituka hizo to support you to help you safely land into menopause without the crazy complications. And of course, if you're struggling with any other chronic issues, like maybe you're having joint issues, of course you need to check for calcium levels, and if it's needed, please supplement. It's allowed.
So then maybe I can quickly ask, to what extent should we rely on supplements? Because there is now diet, which we are talking about, which we can actually get them directly, but then perhaps there could be people who should consider supplements. How do you determine that?
So of course, before I prescribe you a supplement, or before I tell you that you need supplementation, I will have to assess your dietary patterns. This is basically how you have been eating, like your patterns. If you have been taking like 4 slices of bread, if someone has been taking ngwashe, if they have been dipping that ngwashe in cream in the morning, if someone has been taking that bread with peanut butter, of course all that influences your nutrition and health. So when it comes to something like supplementation, you just don't blanket currently there's overuse and misuse of supplements in Kenya because they have been marketed aggressively. So someone is just told that you need to take supplements, you need to take supplements, you need to take supplements. Of course, there are those supplements that the degenerative, the ones that the body now degenerates and reduces the production quantity. Let's say you get from 30 to 35. Of course, there are supplements that you can blanketly take without the specific addressing of the issues. But you need to ensure that whatever you're taking is actually good for you and not going to work against you. Because as I have said, there can be overload of supplements. So before we take supplements, maybe, of course, you should always work with food first. Work with your food preparation methods. How are you preparing your meals? How are you preparing these meals? How are you combining them? When you're serving them, what are you serving? You know, even when it comes to nutrient availability and your body's ability to actually take up what you've taken, it's also dependent on how you're going to eat.
Yeah.
Someone used to tell me that the serving is good, but if you have anything quality and you serve it wrongly, it will not do the work. First, it will not be palatable. Again, it will not, now the nutrient availability, the nitty-gritties that we have talked about, the iron, the folic, the protein, the amino, the omegas might not be available depending on how you're serving and how you're pairing your meals. So of course we need to ensure that you optimize that first, and then if that does not work, and if you have been there has been a deficiency established, of course there are tests to establish that. Most people do not even go for it, and they just go ahead. Someone will say that me going for that test is expensive, but go ahead and buy supplements worth 15,000. Maybe that test would have costed them like 3,000 or 4,000. But you see, because they don't understand the need of understanding what their body actually needs, they have just been told by their favorite influencer that you need to take vitamin D, you need to take this supplement. They just go ahead and buy, because that influencer will tell you, oh, I've woken up, I'm energized. Of course, that is a problem. That is a serious problem that we have.
Interesting that you mentioned that, because really there are a lot of people now on social media who keep throwing, oh, try this diet, try this other diet, oh, this one is good, this one is working for me, oh, this one. And they actually come with videos and they say, I've lost 10 kilos with this one, or try this one, you lose 1 kilo or 2 kilos per week, etc., etc. So how do we really, differentiate between these diets, what is good and what is not good?
We need to understand that people are coming from a different exposure, different angles, different everything. Someone might just be coming to you, it's social media. That's one thing that you need to understand. I can be neza kwa nakula junk behind the curtains, and then I come here and tell you, I've been trying, I come in with a plate of maybe a portioned vegetable, portioned carbohydrate, portioned protein. Then I tell you, I've been trying all this and it's not working. Then I decide, okay, fine, I need to stop what I've been doing behind the doors. And then that works for me, but I will not come and tell you, because of course, if I tell you that I was eating junk behind the closed curtains, you will actually discredit my credibility. You need to understand the social media aspect of it, that not everything that you see is exactly what is being sold. Now, after we understand that, of course, the issue of dieting. I usually say that, dieting has actually been marketed by people who want to capitalize, as I said, on frustration. Dieting is a way of life. Normal eating, like currently when let's say you come to my house and I'm having ugali and maybe tea for breakfast, people will start thinking, oh my God, on a diet. But that was the normal way our parents used to eat. So what is exactly is dieting? So the other things that you're saying, those we call them fads. Something that is not sustainable. When someone brings to you an idea and they tell you, I want you to be eating like once a day, it might be sustainable for them because they might be seated the whole day, but it cannot work for someone else who's moving all over. So of course, when someone brings an idea to you, you need to ensure that, again, you evaluate that idea and you ask yourself a very simple question: can I actually live with this long term? Can I maintain it even after I achieve the weight loss? And if the answer is no, then you need to take it with a pinch of salt. If it's yes, then you go ahead with it. And then I think with these crazy restrictions that we have in the name of dieting, because as I've told you, dieting is a way of life. These restrictions come with a lot of deficiencies. Like you tell someone, I want you to be eating one particular type of meal. As I told you, God gave us the garden. He gave us a garden full of different types of fruits, different types of vegetables, different types of trees, to ensure that we get exactly what our body needs. And there's a very direct link between whether you're trying to achieve weight loss, whether you're trying to achieve a clear skin, whether you're trying to achieve fertility. There's a very direct link between how your gut is and how your metabolism works.
I want you to pause there.
Okay.
Because we need to take a break.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fantastic discussion. Viewers, please don't touch that dial. We are taking a very short break. In 2 minutes, we'll be back and we'll continue with this discussion. This is your time to call, send, share the link with your friends so that they can join in and follow this very, very important discussion on diet and wellness. So we will be right back after the break.
Get ready, Nairobi. This August, the heavens are opening over Kenya. Cardboard 2025 International Christian Conference is here. Themed Divine Portals. The conference is taking place on August 14th to 17th at Nairobi Cinema Auditorium, Aga Khan Walk from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. Join hosts Reverend Alphonse and Alicia Owino and a global lineup of fire-filled ministers from the USA, South Korea, Zambia, Uganda, Qatar, and Kenya. Experience deep worship, prophetic impartation, and supernatural encounters. This is not just another conference, it's a divine appointment, a move of God, a portal into glory. Don't miss your moment. Come hungry, leave transformed. For more info, visit covenantfellowshipchurchok.com or call 0726 250 069. Cardboard 2025. Impact, invest, influence.
This is Maria here.
Hi, I'm Evangelist Michael.
And we are here on the grounds where we're going to be holding the Mass Youth Crusade from August the 6th to the 10th at 3 p.m.
Yes, and we want all Gen Z and Mathare to come be a part of it because it is specifically for the youth in this area.
We believe the Lord is coming after the lost, the broken, and the hurting. So if you know you need an encounter, meet us here August the 6th to the 10th at 3 p.m. You don't want to miss out.
We'll see you there.
Viewers, we are discussing dieting and wellness, and we were just looking at the many diets that are out here and people trying to, call us to this challenge or that challenge, particularly now that we are coming to the end of the month. I'm sure there are several challenges you've had that will be starting tomorrow. So what do we make of all these diets? And that's where we had taken a short break. So maybe now you can continue telling us about what we should consider, how to tell these are fads and these are actually, maybe good pointers towards weight loss, or some actually want weight gain. Yeah.
So I think anything that, as I was saying, anything that you cannot sustain long term, if your social standards, if your personal needs cannot maintain whatever dietary pattern that someone is recommending to you to take for a very long period of time, like for life, then that should come in as a red flag.
Okay.
Of course, another thing that we can also look out to if something that is restrictive. As I was telling you, God threw us in the garden and gave us all these types of fruits, vegetables, legumes, and even the animals to actually ensure that we are optimizing our gut. And it has been shown, there's a lot of research to show that diversity when it comes to intake actually promotes metabolic function. If it's weight gain, if it's weight loss, then you're going to achieve that with optimized gut functionality and metabolic health. So if someone comes and tells you that I want you to be eating only 3 types of food, Ngwashes are good.
Okay.
Sweet potatoes are great.
Okay.
But if you eat them every now and then, it breaks the goodness of being great.
Okay.
So anything that you overdo, the monotony of one particular type of meal, like I'm just taking ngwashe, I'm taking with avocado and eggs, because that is what is actually being sold on TikTok. People are being told, I want you to have one meal a day, and the only thing that you can have is ngwashe, eggs, avocado, and tomatoes. You're restricting your gut flora. And when you're restricting it, it becomes a problem, because now you bring in the aspect of dysbiosis, you bring in the aspect of your body's ability to actually fight off infection and maintain itself. The way this body is created, it knows how to maintain things itself. We have homeostasis balance.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember in high school, even if you didn't do nutrition, there's that homeostasis balance,
yes,
where the body knows when it's been given enough and when it should actually now remove excesses and
yes,
toxins and such.
Yeah.
So yes, we need to support that system with the adequate nutrition, and the variety of meals is actually advised.
Okay.
So if we fail to do that, it becomes a problem. So anything that tells you, I want you to exclude carbohydrates completely, is a problem. Anything that comes and tells you that, again, I want you, food is part of the culture.
Yeah.
And in Kenya, where we thrive in the diversity in terms of culture,
yeah,
you cannot start telling me that now we are not going to be eating, we are going to be fasting. No, it doesn't work. So we need to learn how to incorporate healthy eating habits and the culture. And one of the ways, of course, we can do, maybe we can delay the intake. If you're not physically active in the morning, you can take some water, then you delay breakfast to ensure that you take up your breakfast later when your body is opened up, when your body is even sensitive to actually now start metabolizing things like carbohydrates and other healthier and other heavier foods. Of course, those are things, there's science. So incorporating, we need to ensure that whatever plans that you're giving our people, or you're giving anyone in these challenges, is something that can actually be incorporated into our way of life.
Okay.
Yeah, it should not be deviating from us, because now we are social human beings, and you're also trying so much to encourage the social aspect of life, because as I told you, isolation is it's a creeping problem, and this is going to have a serious negative impact on our mental health. Already it is. We have a lot of issues when it comes to anxiety, depression, all these mental issues. We've seen a lot of increased cases of suicide and all that. Someone joking about killing themselves, and then the next day they go ahead and do it. Because we have actually normalized the isolation culture, where there's no one to even go and check on them. If someone posted today and a whole day, 24 hours went by without someone going to check on that person, then what does that tell you about our social standards? So we need to ensure that we incorporate food into actually taking care of all these aspects of life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Viewers, I hope you are following this discussion. It is best, from what I'm picking from our discussion this morning, it's actually better to have a lifestyle that supports healthy living, as opposed to quote-unquote crash diets that then, today you're okay because you're on a diet, then the minute you leave it, the weight comes back. Okay. Now, we've been talking about wellness generally, but now there's the issue now of actual weight loss. What is the science behind either weight loss or weight gain? Because from what you're saying, it's basically what you take in, the body responds. But what's the science behind that?
Okay, as I have said, the basic science is that what you give your body, it will utilize it, and if it does not need it, the ideal situation, if it does not need it, it will either excrete the excesses or store the excesses. So of course there's that, if you give it too much toxins, I usually say the toxicity, there's toxins in food. If you give it too much sugars, if you give it too much processed, plastic foods, like your body cannot metabolize these plastic foods, so it has to change them into aspects that can actually be stored. And this is becoming now storage of fat, and all this bring a lot of hormonal issues with women, and this brings a lot issues with weight gain. Weight gain and weight loss is I don't want to say it's hormonal mediated alone, because that's the only aspect, but it is really dependent on hormones, how your endocrine system actually works, how your body is responding to hunger, how your body is responding to food intake. When you take up food, is your body able to actually tell you, now, Mumina, stop, we've had enough, if now we need to tone it down. And then if you take the excesses, is your body able to actually ensure that it metabolizes the excesses, it removes, you go to the toilet well, your fecal movement is good, and then it does not store as much. Like it requires, okay, am I taking enough? Am I actually supporting my body with, maybe simple walking to ensure that whatever I'm taking is being utilized, maybe exercising to ensure that I'm building muscles to convert the excesses that I might have taken. Of course, all these actually influence weight gain and weight loss. So weight gain is complex, but it's also very easy, but it's not as what people usually say, that if now I give you this concoction, you drink it, the weight goes off. No, of course there are things that support the metabolic function, that support the digestion and actually promote the homeostasis balance, and they will actually help with weight loss. That is something that we need to agree. There are foods that actually support the body's metabolic functions to actually help with weight loss. And there are also foods that actually support storage. Of course, if you're over-consuming your carbohydrates, you're going to have excesses and you're going to store. Even the proteins, if you over-consume, even the fats, you're going to store. But again, if you take up foods that support the liver, support the digestion, the gut, of course, you're going to maintain that. And we need to ensure that one common characteristic with anyone that struggles with weight gain or weight loss is usually hormonal imbalances. It's a common feature in them. So of course there are things that you can optimize to balance your hormones, like anti-inflammatory diets, we call them that, like where you're increasing your intake of the green leafy vegetables. I'm not telling you to start juicing greens, because Kenya, that is not a culture that is acceptable to many. People will start thinking that they are suffering, but you can just fry your skuma or even boil it and then take it. Do your nuts, do your matoke if you can. Nuts and matoke, they make a very good, perfect combination. And then you add in some maybe cabbage here and there, and you have your meals. That is good for hormonal balances, because it's going to supply your body with the omegas, the magnesium, the zinc, the anti-inflammatories that we actually recommend, the chlorophylls, these are all that, and these are good to support the hormonal balance, and this will reduce the cravings. You know, you eat because you feel like eating, and also we need to ensure that you are maintaining adequate intake of water. That is for weight loss. And of course for weight gain, of course, if you're trying to gain weight, I'm not going to tell you to start now overeating so that you can gain weight. No, you need to ensure that you can still be thin and still have a very bad metabolic profile. So we need to ensure that we are supporting our metabolism at all levels, even with our wants. So if you want to gain the weight, there are things that you have said, there are gyms. You can go physically active, ensuring that you increase your protein intake to ensure that that protein is actually being used to build muscles, ensuring that you're of course snacking enough to avoid your body using the storage, the ones that you're storing, to actually break down. That will actually help you the gain with the gaining the weight.
Interesting. So from what I hear from you, there's a bit of science that backs part of intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting is not bad.
All right. But again, somebody just has to consider their own lifestyle to consider whether it works for them. And maybe I don't know, maybe let me just interject with the intermittent fasting. When you think about intermittent fasting, it's basically our way of life, the way we grew up, or the way we have, some of us are still continuing to live. You know, when we were young, we used to, by 6 umepika supper, like umekula. By 7, 8, 9, latest you're in bed. Then you wake up at 6, unatayarisha for breakfast. Or sometimes unabeba na ka lunch box. Then you go to run to school. You have your lunch. Some people never used to have breakfast. And people were okay. But again, because of now malnutrition in children, because it was chronic, whereby people were running to school with poor dietary combinations, people were actually advised to be giving babies foods in the morning. But again, there was no nutrition intervention in it. There was no nutrition component. It was just availability of food, give the babies food. No one talked about what you're supposed to give these babies. So ideally, if we eat well, we have been practicing intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is basically not eating for at least 8 to 12 hours. That is intermittent fasting. And I support it. The only problem that I have with intermittent fasting in women, you know, you are
as I said, you're having your menses.
Yeah.
You also, if you're a woman of reproductive age, maybe you're planning for pregnancy.
Yeah.
All these processes are very energy intense. So they require proper nourishment.
Okay.
If you chronically fast, you're going to alter your fertility negatively.
Oh.
Yes. So of course, intermittent fasting is great if you're trying to maybe stabilize your hormone, if you're chasing weight loss for fertility and such. But if you do it to the extent whereby now it's becoming like you're trying to compete with Jesus, it becomes a problem.
Okay.
You need to ensure that you're nourishing your body effectively and routinely.
Okay.
Not all the time, routinely.
Okay.
And when you're practicing intermittent fasting, like if you have if let's say for someone like me, I'm not growing.
Okay.
In fact, where I am in my maintenance phase where I'm trying to maintain to ensure that I do not start degenerating fast.
Okay.
So of course, if I'm doing intermittent fasting, I will make sure that while my intake, during my eating window or the eating period, I ensure that I take whole foods, I take nutrient dense foods to ensure that I am supporting my body, to ensure that my cells are not dying, that my cells are not stressed. I'm not introducing the aspect of hormonal issues. I'm trying as much as I can to ensure that I preserve my fertility as much as I can, because I want to have babies.
Yeah.
So of course we need to ensure that we communicate the same to women.
Yeah.
The problem comes in with the line between what's enough and what's chronic.
Okay.
Because some people now, it's also addictive, or it can also become like mind-blowing. Someone starts losing weight and then starts thinking, okay, fine, I need to stop eating completely. Need to start taking, because I've seen on the Facebook groups, they're taking bone broths and they're taking green tea. And if someone starts getting the deficiency symptoms, because if you don't take up, your skin will start reacting, you'll start getting dizzy. People are telling them, no, just lumbar glucose to kisonga.
Yes.
You need to listen to your body. Your body talks to you. Your body will tell you when you're hurting it and when it's okay. So listen to it. But of course, we work towards making sure that, again, we maintain our hormones so that the body can communicate. They usually say that these are small communicators. They tell your body, okay, fine, it's time to sleep, it's time to wake up, it's time to eat, it's time to drink water, it's time to go to the toilet, all those. So we need to ensure we are optimizing for that.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Okay. Then we've talked about the nutrients that women really should focus on in the different phases. And then we've also talked about the kind of supplements that perhaps they should consider.
Yeah.
Now, let's say a woman comes to you, they have fertility issues. Where would you begin from as a dietitian?
Now, as a fertility is quite sensitive.
Yes.
We need to acknowledge that. So, of course, the first thing that you need to do is get a history, like understand what happened. Unfortunately, some people blame themselves, and I want just to tell them that it is not your fault. It is not your fault. Like, no one wants to have fertility issues.
Yeah.
Even that, someone will come and say, oh, she did abortion. Even that person who did abortion, they did not plan for fertility issues.
Yeah.
So we need to be kinder to such people.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the first step. And then, of course, you understand where they're coming from. Like how much, what have they tried?
Yes.
Sometimes the stress of trying to conceive will actually make you not conceive.
Okay.
So when you're trying to rush your system and you're trying to force your system to do things, I usually say the best way, if you have not been classified medically, is maybe you had your tubes removed, maybe you had your womb removed, maybe you have no menses, like they stopped completely, you're not ovulating, all that. Unless it's medically prescribed that you are infertile, of course, other things can actually be altered. And the best way is just to relax. Live one day at a time. Ensure that you're taking up your food healthy, you're sleeping well, you're drinking enough water, you're moving, you're even enjoying your life, and you're trying to limit toxicity or the toxic exposure to things as much as you can. You're not supposed to now start over. Of course, there are foods that actually support fertility. One of them is anything that supports the liver.
Okay.
Anything that supports the liver will support fertility.
Okay.
Anything that supports gut function will support fertility. Anything that supports energy availability and utilization supports fertility. So of course there are things like maybe magnesium, cofactor Q10. There are things like maybe, of course, iron and folic acid.
Yeah.
There are things like maybe chlorophylls, the green therapies. They can actually support the liver, and this will actually help with ensuring that you're promoting and you're availing your body with the adequate nourishment, the adequate support to prepare for conception and pregnancy. As I have said, these are energy intense processes, and this is when you're trying to conceive. You can practice intermittent fasting, mild, but don't do the chronic ones. You can do like maybe 14-10, maybe 16-8, but don't go over like 24 hours without fades. You know, and then you ensure that even, of course, you need to also ensure that your mental space is okay, so that, again, there's that aspect of stress, chronic stress and hormonal issues and infertility. So we need to ensure that you're trying as much as you can to bring balance to life. I know it's hard. I know it's usually easier said than done. Tell someone, I want you to go to sleep by 10, and this person goes to bed and their brain is wandering like until like 4-5 a.m. Of course, with practice, and sometimes I usually say one of the things that is actually underrated when it comes to hormonal balance is prayer, or actually knowing that someone up there has your back. You'll sleep comfortably because utalala ukijua, I have done my part, now it's time for him to do his part. So once you do that, then it becomes easier for you to deal with things like sleep and deal with things like maybe too much worry or too much pressure. And of course, the societal aspect, we need to be kinder, because the society is very harsh. It's very harsh to a woman who has not yet conceived. So if you have not been medically termed infertile, you can still conceive. And even if you have, there are other avenues that we can actually explore. We have IVF, we have surrogacy, we have adoption. Kenyans are slowly, you know, Kenyans are not, they're traditional when it comes to certain aspect of life, but they want to move away from traditions. Like when it comes to childbearing and all that, wanashikilia tradition, wanasema, no, we want our own lineage. But adoption is also a way of becoming a parent. So ikikataa saa zingine unaambia Mungu, now give me an alternative and let's do it the other way.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much. That's very, very insightful. Now, with the rise in lifestyle diseases and you know, challenges, that this one is across board, this one is not just for women, and our busy lifestyles, what would you advise maybe people to do so that at least they can try either keep them at bay, or you know, eliminate, or maybe just, you know, live longer, healthier lives?
One thing I would actually recommend is that we understand where we are at as a country. And just the other day, we saw that now in Kenya, when it comes to NCDs and deaths, we used to have things like hypertension, things like stroke, things like cardiac arrest being the second leading cause of death in Kenya. Now that has been surpassed by things like cancers. Now, why is cancer so rampant in Kenya? We need to understand the fact that the food quality has actually gone down dramatically. The availability of toxins in both our water, in both our air, in our soils has also gone high. What this does, this means that the toxins that are going to get to my body are going to be higher. And remember, we say that the body will try so much to fight off and to remove these things. And some toxins are not like, they are not, the body is not able to convert into either fat for easier storage, or so or in the process they end up injuring the cells, and this brings about the formation of cancers. Even the storage, the storage of the overstorage of the fats and such is also a risk factor to developing certain cancers. So we need to understand where we are coming from, and we need to start asking the right questions. I always say that when our leaders come to us, we need to ask them, what are you doing to ensure that the tomato or the potato or the grains that I get in my table are safe? What things are you, what guidelines, what activities are you actually steering to ensure the safety of my food, the safety of my environment is actually maintained? That is on these metabolic disorders, because chronic inflammation has actually been associated with all of them. When it comes to diabetes, when it comes to cancer, when it comes to hypertension, when even to come any other gout and all this, any inflammatory disease is actually a serious issue with the quality, the types of foods, and the environment aspect. So of course we need to ask those questions, and then now there are things that we cannot control. Once we ask the questions, now we start pushing them, and then now we start working with what we can actually control. How well are you sleeping? How well are you supporting your liver to remove and eliminate these toxins? How well are you supporting your body to self-repair itself? Are you giving it enough nourishment? Are you giving it enough antioxidants? Are you giving enough anti-inflammatory foods to ensure that the body is actually supporting the detoxification, the elimination, and the repair of the cells to avoid the occurrences of these metabolic disorders? And when it comes to stress, how well are you managing your stress? You know, stress is actually an underlooked aspect of disease in Kenya. When you're talking about, let's talk about NCDs management.
And
stress
is here being
non-communicable diseases like the diabetes, the cancers, the hypertension, the stroke, and that. Stress is usually an aspect that is given like 4 lines in the guidelines. People are not, we have therapists, we have psychologists trained in Kenya, even licensed, but they are not being utilized. People have a lot of stressors, and not everyone can afford private psychological care. The same thing with nutritionists. So the government and both levels of government need to ensure that they are utilizing these people to ensure that they are helping us in fighting the occurrences of these diseases. And of course, when it comes to things like, the other things like maybe aspect of the communicable diseases that we cannot control so much because someone has to be on medication. Let's say you're on long-term medication. Let's say you're doing maybe HIV or any other medication. You need to now ensure that you are working with a dietitian. That's where dietitians comes in, because they're going to help you ensure that you're supporting your body and your system at every different level where you are. If you are on, let's say, the end stage, they're there with you to ensure that they're optimizing your life. If you are in the where we are right now, they're there to ensure that we are reducing the degenerations. Again, to slow age. No one wants to age so fast. And of course, if you are in the maybe adolescent, to ensure that you are optimizing, to ensure that you are fertile enough, to ensure that you are reproducing. And if you're a child, of course, we also need to ensure that we are trying as much as we can to support nutrition, to support growth and development. And as I said, availability of food does not equate to nutrition. You can be taking a lot of food, but you're taking zero nourishment for your system. You're just filling up. You're just filling up to slow down the hunger cues. And this will actually come back to you, because if you don't learn how to optimize your diet and you're just working on filling the hunger cues only, of course, what will happen in the long run, you'll have hormonal issues. So you'll have no, your body will not be telling you that, okay, we are full, you need to stop eating. Now you'll come in with the aspect of obesity, over nutrition. And we usually people assume that people who are obese are actually over consuming nutritious foods. No, most are just malnourished. It's just that the body has just been used to the overconsumption of certain particular food that now they are just okay, we just been there. Those are the most people with micronutrient deficiencies, and we actually tend to underlook it in Kenya.
Wow. Viewers, I hope you are following that discussion. Very, very insightful. We are coming to the end of our discussion, but I want to thank our viewers. Thank you, Felista. She says great information here, great information there. She says good work. Mumina. Then thank you, Moses. He's asking a question here, and maybe this is what we will end with, because we have less than a minute to go. What are the advantage of, I believe it's gluten-free flour?
Okay, gluten-free, if you are intolerant to gluten, of course, you should take gluten-free flour, because you'll not have those issues. But not everyone is intolerant. I am not intolerant to gluten. I can comfortably have my bread, my chapatis, my cake, but again, we need to tone down. You know, there's an article I read somewhere that Kenyans are addicted to chapati. Chapati, and which is true. Kenyans eat mandazi every single day, bread every single day, chapati every single day. Kama mtu ameamua my poison of choice for breakfast ni mandazi, itakuwa mandazi Monday to Monday. Kama ni mkate, hivyo hivyo. So of course we need to tone down on that and to ensure, of course this will bring about intolerances because you're overloading your system so much. You need to change, you need to give it time to breathe. So of course this will bring about gut issues, and if you have been doing that, or if you have such an addiction, of course things like gluten-free might help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So we are just wrapping up the show, and as we do that, maybe you can just look at this camera. That's your camera.
Okay.
Tell viewers where they can find you. Anyone who would like to get more information from you about dieting, etc. And then and any parting shot you have.
Okay, so you can find me online on social medias at Mumina Wellness Solutions. I have a private practicing consulting on nutrition and diet, of course in the different stages of life. And on other socials, you'll find me as Lilian Mumina. Okay. And one of my parting shots, I can write my number, 0723 899 429. If you need any consultation on matters nutrition, you need to reach out, and we are going to actually work with you to ensure that we help you on that. And as a parting shot, let's remember that as women, or even as Kenyans, we have the responsibility to protect our generation, ourselves, and to actually help the country in fighting the increasing burden of disease. Okay. So let's be a bit vigilant when it comes to what you're eating, what you're drinking. Let's normalize asking questions around nutrition and health. Okay. Let's ask, why is the tomato tasting so bad? Why is it that when I put the tomato in my house, it does not go bad after 7 days? Tomatoes should go bad after 3 or 4 days. Unakaa na nyanya kwa nyumba siku 7 na ijaharibika kwa nini? Let's normalize asking these questions. Let's normalize tagging the Ministry of Health. Let's normalize tagging the responsible government entities and the lawmakers to ensure that we are protecting our masses. Because yes, you can be very active at your individual level, like maybe I am, but unless whatever I'm going to actually buy is safe, then kunisaidia ni ngumu. So let's actually normalize that. That is the only way we are going to fight these metabolic disorders kama cancers, diabetes, and let's normalize checkups. Blood sugar, CHPs wako. The current government has taken up community health promoters. They are going around the wards. Ask about them if you don't see them for long, because they're supposed to be helping us with collecting data and actually mapping up those people who are at risk of developing these conditions, so that we can actually help them before it gets to bad levels. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sure we'll call you again and again, just to touch on some of these things again, refreshers and all. And just also to have that conversation, even at national level. I think it's very important.
It is.
Standards and all that. So viewers, unfortunately, that's all we've had time for today. My producers are looking at me like you should have ended this show yesterday. So we have to end it here, but thank you so much for tuning in. Please reach out to Lilian. She's given you her contacts. Get in touch so that you can get personalized assistance, because most of these things, it has to be individual based. So please do that, and please stay healthy and don't fall for the fads, because now you are informed. So until next time, thank you so much. I've been your host, Laureen Magotsi. Bye-bye until then.